Thank you very much, everybody, for arriving today. My name is Nancy Steidl, and I run the Business Mission Networking events. And I do them because I like to help people in business. Also, I like to educate people in businesses, not just only networking, and that's why I do these interviews with guests who have purchased my book. So I recently published this book in 2025, which is called The Art of Analogies in Business. I wrote the book because myself, I've had companies before, and I've helped many people set up companies as well. And I just put all my energy and knowledge into the book. So it took me about 7 years to write. And I used storytelling to explain it. So starting a business is like building a house. You need a blueprint, which is your business plan, and then you need an address, which is your trademark, and you need legal contracts, which are your bills. So, and also you need money to build the house. So individuals who have purchased my book, which is Kasia here, I interview. I like to give back because she's purchased my book and she's supported my book journey. So if you're interested, I did bring a book along, and then you have the opportunity to sit where Kasia's sitting to discuss your business journey and inspire other people. Because I think entrepreneurship can be quite lonely at times, and if you have somebody else that has done it and is successful at what they do, then it may inspire you or motivate you, or you can relate to that person or go to that person to talk to them about how they did their journey to help you. It's all about helping each other. So as I said, I brought some copies. If you're interested, then let me know. So today we have the wonderful Kasia Richter. I always say this wrong, but I hope
it's fine. Yes. No,
that's what people say. So I'm really delighted to have her. We met at a networking event, and she's very talented. She has a studio. I haven't been there yet, but she has a studio. She's all about wellness, and I think one thing we do have to take into account when we are starting a business is our mental health and our wellness. You know, it's not all just work, but you have to zone in to make sure, because if you're not happy and healthy, then you're going to be no good to your business. So today I welcome her, and like I said, we met at a networking event. She purchased a book from me, and I thought, you know what, I'd love to interview her because she has lots of wealth of knowledge of business and her journey, and she can share that with you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, good morning, everyone. Once again, I'm Kasia Richter, and originally I'm from Poland, and I've been living in the UK for the past 8 years, and I've built my career abroad. I've left Poland at the age of 19, so I have experience of living in different countries, working with different nationalities, actually over 100 nationalities. Yeah, a very vast portfolio of skills, which I love to mix and match in order to help people feel better, essentially. Because as a psychologist and as a yoga teacher, now Wellbeing Strategist, which is my brand, I strongly believe how we feel is important. As simple as that. Yeah?
Wonderful.
So I don't know how, because I can talk a lot, but
okay,
I know you have a good.
Well, I was going to say, what sparked the idea for your business? What made you decide to do that?
Right. So at the moment, I run Wellbeing Strategist, which is a consultancy for feeling better. So I focus on mental health. You have to give people something that will be super easy to apply, and that's why I help them feel better in terms of preventing burnout or fighting burnout and depression. Prevention is everything. It really originates from the way you think. Building resilience is the key thing. And how you build it by having a strong mindset, by thinking in a certain way, because when you do that, you act in a certain way. However, nowadays people are really wired and they run into depression and burnout. Which really hurts me because, you know, it touches my personal life. Obviously, it came from my personal journey, my personal story of experiencing, you know, all the unpleasant things which we all, at least a lot of us, experience at one stage. You know, it may be a depression, it might be a burnout, it might be just too much stress. It might be a toxic relationship, maybe with your boss, maybe with your partner. And the common denominator is we really need tools in order to deal with that. So what sparkled me was at the age of 38, I was pretty successful by, what people may think. I was a director, a national operations director of the airline. So I've built a very nice career in the aviation industry. I loved aviation. I started working as a cabin crew in the Middle East. So I've worked for all the big airlines, Emirates, Etihad, Gulf Air, and Qatar Airways, starting from cabin crew, then being a recruiter, and then being a director. My last airline was back in Poland, national carrier. So I was sitting there and in a place where I felt completely depleted, but very proud because, I was really exhausted on one hand, like, sleeping for hours, most of the time, and thinking, okay, this is what success feels like. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm forgetting things, I'm doing mistakes, but yeah, this is all part of the success. And I was really wondering, like, okay, I'm qualified yoga teacher and I cannot really make myself go for a yoga class. I cannot find 15 minutes to do yoga in the morning. Why is that? Why is that? Literally, because, I was just prioritizing work. Work was always the priority. It's like, no, I have to, push even harder. I cannot delegate. If I delegate it, they're going to think I'm not efficient, that I'm not smart enough, that I cannot do it myself. So I was just thinking like that. You drive yourself to the point where your body is exhausted. So what do? Okay, you go for a massage. We all love massage, right? So I was going, Thai massage, yes. I'm lying down there, Thai massage. And then I'm thinking, okay, how to plan the next recruitment campaign? How am I going to do it? Okay, I'm going to do it like that. Okay, and then the massage is gone. I'm like, what happened to the massage? So, your mind is not really where your body is. And that was scary. That was scary that I couldn't go for yoga, that, I went for a massage and I really didn't feel like nothing happened. And then one day I went for a sound bath. One nice Saturday back in Warsaw, and it was pretty long one. Standard sound bath is 60 minutes, but that one was like more of a event of some sort. It was like 3 hours. So I was lying down there 3 hours, and next day I came back to the office, and something shifted. The amount of workload was still the same, like, hundreds and hundreds of contracts to sign, people to process. I was like managing 1,000 people and recruiting every month, I think at least 100. So it was a lot of workload. And so the workload didn't disappear, that everything stayed the same. The office was same, people were the same, bosses were the same. But I was calm. I wasn't triggered. I wasn't really feeling anxious. I wasn't so stressed. I was like, that's interesting. And that stayed for at least 2 weeks. And I'm like, what happened? What did I do? And then I'm like, oh my God, I went for a sound bath. So I started learning more and more about it. Wow, this is quite easy because, you don't have to even put on your yoga pants, just go and you just lie down. So then I started studying more about the sound healing and how sound affects us. And then basically I started practicing it more and then became practitioner. And then I opened my studio after publishing the book, because even the book, it takes an effort, more effort than showing up for a sound bath. So not everybody was like reading the book, even though the book is available as an audiobook. People are sometimes lazy, but sometimes they're just overstimulated and they don't have a headspace even to consume the book. I find like, okay, sound healing is the answer. So I'm running a small sound healing studio in Rains Park. I'm very, very proud that, I can help people who are in this exactly space where I was a few years back.
Wonderful. So you went from corporate to this rat race place to starting this business. So what was one very first step that you took to start the business on a structural level? Like, passion is really important to start a business, but I think a lot of people forget the structural side of it, sort of like a business plan or marketing strategy, or just what sort of first step did you take to get the business going?
I wish I was so structured like you are.
Well, just explain what you did. That's the important
We're
thing.
all different. So in my case, it was evolving very, very organically. I was bringing like a lot of skills throughout my whole career. Like, for example, I was just doing things parallel. I was still working in aviation, and at the same time, I became a yoga teacher. I was, being the recruitment operations director, and I started setting up my other business. So it was like just going, everything was parallel, yeah. So it wasn't really super structured. But obviously, yes, structure is super important in business. It's just, I jumped at one stage. I just like quit the job in aviation, fully relocated to London, and started building it and learning. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've done a lot of training, a lot of mentoring, and finally I'm in a really happy place where I'm actually building this structure like on my own terms.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they get very passionate about something. But one thing you said, which is really important, is that you do really need to be on two trains when you're starting a business. You need money to start that business, and a lot of people might leave their job to start the business, and this is where it can go really wrong because you don't have that income. Starting a business costs money. I'm sure you all know that. You've had your experiences about, but the wise way to do it is to have some money on that side that you can inject a little bit into the starting the business, and when you get comfortable in a place, you can leave that company like you've done and set up the business. So in your early days, what would you consider was a really big challenge for you, but you turned that challenge into an opportunity?
I cannot think of one thing because, we always have challenges every single day when you're running a business, when you're working. Challenges are part of our life. You know the saying, like when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So it's a little bit like that. That was 2023, and I just published this book, and I was really keen to promote the book and showcase it. So I wanted to put it out in front of people. And I've been working also for the past few years since I finished with aviation industry and relocated to London. I started working with the high-end audio industry. Well, I was part of that, and I was part of the events and of the shows. And there was a show coming up, and I'm like, wow, that's a great opportunity, I'm gonna get a room of my own, and I'm gonna be promoting my book. And it was an audio show. Audio show is basically people are showcasing speaker systems, like systems that deliver music. And the organizer is saying like, oh, it's great you have a book, but like, what do you have to do with sound? Yeah. I'm like, and then I'm like, I really like sound healing, I'm going to borrow gongs and I'm going to just do sound baths. And at that point, I was really pushed. I'm like, okay, now I cannot be just like casually going and just enjoying sound baths by myself. I really have to become a practitioner. So I've done the training, I purchased the gongs, and I got ready for the show. The organizer was quite skeptical because what the hell is she doing here, And that was, 3 years back. And just to show you how persistence, which you talk about your books, and focus is paying off. So the same show, it's a show that happens every year in Whittleberry, Audio Show Deluxe it's called. First year I was like barely there exhibiting and like with my first gong and with the book and people were like, what the hell is she doing here with the gong? And people were really skeptical. They didn't know what the gong was, what does it do. They were like thinking, are you selling the gongs? So it's like you're just figuring it all out. And I continued and I exhibited like every single year. And this year in March, I exhibited again with more gongs, more equipment, like with the full confidence because I have so much more practice and so much more evidence from the work with clients. People loved it. Apart from like having my my showroom, full all day long. Like for 2 days back to back, I was just offering like mini sound baths, and people loved it. And there are people who were usually not really exposed to sound healing before. I also delivered sound bath in like a bigger room, one of the lounges during the show. So I got the lounge for free, so that was a pretty good deal. And at the end of the show, I was actually granted an award by one of the media partners, which is called Hi-Fi Pig. It's a hi-fi magazine. They're called Hi-Fi Pig, and they have an award of a golden pig. So I got like a little statuette of a golden pig for basically the best room of the show. And the best room was decided upon the best experience you deliver. So that was the moment that, I was really, really proud, because I know you were about to ask like what I'm proud of. I'm like, I'm proud of a golden pig.
We'll definitely get to that. So, what makes your business different amongst all the other studios or wellness retreats out there? And who do you help, and what problem do you solve?
I help people feel better. Take away your phone and lock you up in a dark room and beat the gongs very hard until I take you to another planet. So that's what I do.
Fantastic.
And people love it, and they come back for more. So especially in winter. Winter is a really busy season because, this winter was so long and miserable, and even I struggled getting to my studio. I was like, this weather is horrible. And people were just coming and coming. I'm like, where are those people coming from? It's terrible outside, but they loved it. It's like, I created a space that makes you feel safe and makes you put away your phone, which is ridiculous, but this is where we are now. We're so glued to screens. We're so attached to our to-do lists, to constantly being on. And from the mental health point of view, it's extremely unhealthy. So I train people how to step away from the phone, how to start meditating, doing a little bit of mindfulness exercises, just to create this mind space, so that you can actually not only feel better, but be more productive, be more creative, just regain that space in your head.
Fantastic, really good. So I compare starting a business like raising a child. So it's really important to understand that you are not your business. Especially I find a lot of consultants or freelancers, they get very much consumed that they think they're the business. But when you actually do a business plan, you can separate yourself, and then you can see this business over here and how you are raising that business. That business also will have a different audience than you. I work with a lot of musicians and actresses and actors, and they're really hard to understand, but they step into the role of acting, and then when they come home, they're somebody's daughter or niece or nephew, whatever. So understanding a business plan helps you a lot, or some sort of plan helps you understand. You step into the business owner that day, and then you step out of it. So what's something you've learned along the way while raising your business?
Accepting feedback. Yeah.
Very good.
Because this is really important lesson, if not the most important one so far, that if somebody criticizes you or what you do, or oh, this book, maybe the cover is, should be this or that, or maybe you should move it this way or whatever. I was very touchy when it came to receiving feedback. I was really feeling oh, they're criticizing me, there's something wrong with me, and I was really feeling unappreciated, not seen. Don't you see how much work I've put into creating this book? Don't you know? See, Nancy took her 7 years to write it. So I was feeling oh my God, you're just criticizing me. I don't want to hear from you. You're my enemy. Just leave me alone. And then a shift came. I was working with a lot of different modalities, and with one, I've learned that you have to accept everything. You need to learn how to receive. And feedback is also, or criticism even, is something to receive. Because, you need to learn how to receive the good and bad. Not to mention the fact that, usually people, it comes from a good place, that, they really want you to improve. Yeah, learning to accept feedback.
Yes, I think a lot of people don't want you to criticize their kid.
Yeah.
And if you are open, I mean, some people don't have a filter and they just say it bluntly without a diplomatic approach, and then you will find it to be offensive. But if you look, the underlining of it is actually there to help you. Now, not everybody's perception is going to match your perception on what you do with your business. But if you just take a moment and think, okay, actually that logically makes sense, or you know what, I'm not going to entertain that, but you can just take it how you want. I learned with my business, or reviews, somebody leaves a review or something like that. It's good to reach out. Why did you write that? Or why do you feel that? And then take that on board on how to better your business. So that's a very good point.
And then can I just touch on that? Because then it translates into work with clients. The clients will give you feedback all the time.
Absolutely.
They would say like, oh, the private session is too expensive. Why is it so expensive? It's like, oh no, it's just too expensive. I'm not coming. Yeah. So, it is an information, it is a feedback, and you really need not to be affected by it, right? People have their reasons for thinking this is expensive, and it's fine. It's like, what is expensive? People have different values and they will pay for different things.
Exactly.
And it's normal.
Yeah. So if you were to start today again, the business, what would you do differently?
Probably start working on my mindset earlier, so that I wouldn't be stuck in toxic workplaces or relationships for so long. But at the same time, I do appreciate my journey, because we all have time, and it takes time. And when you're ready to do whatever you have to do. Do not compare yourself to others, and you can only do that when you are in the right frame of mind, when you have a good self-awareness, good self-confidence. And for example, I've been part of different mentoring groups, networking groups, coaching, mentoring, you name it. Yeah. And there was one that I've been part of for many years. It was basically like a group of on doing business online for spiritually led entrepreneurs. And we had meetings, that when you're working on your own, it's really hard. You need to build a whole structure. So, meetings like that, groups like that, they give you structure. You have meetings, you have framework, you have you plan, let's say, your month, you summarize the month, which is very, very helpful. And then once we were sitting and planning the map, and there was 10 ladies, and one is saying okay, this month I'm starting to write my blog, and I'm planning to write 10 pieces of blog. And another one is and I'm starting the podcast. And another one is oh, I'm going to be attending this and this many of networking events and acquire so many clients. And I'm sitting there after hearing all of them, I'm thinking, oh, and I only want to I don't know, launch or just do something which really felt totally insignificant. I want to write one chapter for my book this month, for example. Yeah. And I was no, I have to go for networking, and I have to write, do the blog and a podcast. And then I was ending up with a list like that. And then at the end of the month, I was feeling really frustrated and miserable, because obviously it was unachievable. So it took me time to figure out what was going on. So be mindful of your environment and the people, and everything has to be human at the end of the day, because we have certain capacity, and we have to also move at our own pace. So comparing ourselves to others, it can be quite damaging, as it might be very helpful. And the line is quite thin sometimes.
Yeah, I think we're at all different stages when we're starting a business. I remember once, because we have an investment side to our business, and somebody wrote to me saying, oh, I'm going to set up Amazon. Look at Jeff Bezos, he makes millions, so my idea will make millions. And I just thought he's Jeff Bezos, it's nice to look up to somebody like that, but you cannot say that your business will make millions at this stage. I'm not saying it won't, but to compare somebody who's doing it 20 years to where you're starting out, that's kind of saying to a toddler that's crawling to compare it to a 40-year-old that's running a marathon. You should surround yourself with people that want to motivate you, that want to lift you in what you're doing. If they're not, it's okay. There are 7 billion people in the world. You can be really polite and just, they're not part of your journey, and that's okay. So we're coming slightly to an end here. I wanted to talk a little bit about your book. So why don't you tell us a little about your book, how long it took to write, and why you wrote it?
It was after the COVID, and a lot of people started suffering with mental health, primarily with burnout, and burnout leads to a depression. So since I've been on that journey of self-development, of working on my mindset, of becoming a practitioner of different modalities, also a modality that works with the subconscious mind and helps rewire beliefs to changing our thinking and behavior. I wanted to give people who might be stuck a tool, and I was also part of that community, which I've mentioned before, and it was full of women who were smart, educated, accomplished women, like lawyers, psychologists, teachers, and they had a burnout, and then they decided to run their own company. And then what I've noticed, because they were trying so hard and they were little crawling babies and they wanted to be super successful millionaires, they were just ending up in a burnout. So this is a serious topic. And I've done research. I've gathered, the tools that helped me, and I've put it together. I've done the course on self-publishing on Amazon, because also I was thinking, getting the passive income stream is a great idea. So I also had this idea. I was like, yes, I'm gonna become super, successful with this income thing, but it didn't actually go this way.
Over-optimistic.
Yes, but
well done.
It's great. At least I know what it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I chosen all right, the book is there. It's gonna reach the right people, and that's it. Now, when I'm running retreats, I just came back from my Norway retreat, and I'm surprised, how many ladies appreciate it, because this book is given as a gift for the retreat participants, and then I'm starting the retreat. I'm giving them the goodie bag, and then next morning for breakfast they come. It's like, Kasia, I started reading your book. It's so great. I really enjoyed it. I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing I could ever hear. Yeah. So I'm really, really pleased that, even though it's a few years old, it's still relevant, and it's reaching the right people, and it's hopefully giving the right advice that can help.
Perfect. And where is it available? How can people get a copy?
It's available on Amazon. This is the paperback. There's also the hardback available, and Kindle and audio. So you have a choice.
What advice would you give somebody who's starting a business?
Okay, so we've touched up on a few important things, and I'm just going to recap and add something else. So do not compare yourselves with others. The environment is extremely important, and focus on yourself and work on your mindset, because that is like a driver's engine. And another thing which completes the whole thing is basically listen to your intuition. Really work on your mind-body connection, I would say, because then you can hear your intuition. Just like people go for fortune tellers, right? Fortune tellers are basically people that have developed this ability of working with subconscious mind and just seeing and hearing and knowing more. And we all have this ability. That's the reality. And when you do mindfulness exercises, when you go for Samba, for example, anything, yoga practice, mindset work, you develop this ability. That is going to guide you, because you can avoid so many mistakes in your private life, in your business life, when you listen to your true self. So that's why it's so important just to slow down sometimes. And I'm not saying like, oh, I'm gonna take you to Norway for a retreat. You can go to, Wimbledon Common, or there's so many beautiful areas. It's just like, it's all about crafting out these spaces in your life and just going to the park or going to the place that will allow your mind to really slow down, open up without technology, without screens, just enjoy, and really implementing those things. That's how you practice to, listen to your intuition.
Yeah, I think a lot of people go out of their space, whereas if you're in your space and you structure your space, you attract towards you. Like one of the analogies I use is like a spider web. A spider doesn't go out to the insects and say, "Come to my web." It just spins the web, it goes to the beach, and it comes back, and all these spiders here. I think a lot of people don't understand that there is a lot of money that flies everywhere in the world. And if you don't understand that, you have like a money scarcity mindset then. Or, for example, another analogy is a flower. A flower will spend time building roots, and the bee will land on the flower for the pollen. The flower doesn't go, "Where are you, bee? Come to me." It just stays very still, and then the bee lands on it because it has what it needs. So one of the things I say with business plans, it's not just a business plan, but it's actually a manifestation tool where you're writing things down, you're believing it, and you will then attract that towards you. When the other day I got an email from somebody selling his business, and I just thought, that's so draining. Like, just stay very still, share your knowledge on LinkedIn or social media, share that knowledge, and then people will find you because they know what you're talking about. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for coming today. We really appreciate your knowledge and wisdom.